Welcome to the history of Bulgarian folk music. The purpose of this PowerPoint is to give you background on Bulgarian folk music, from how being an instrumental musician and a vocal musician are not actually the same, to how certain songs came to fruition, while also showing you how its music progressed over time. I will also provide visual examples of specific traditional instruments the Bulgarians played and audio clips of certain songs they sang. The term musicanti means instrumental musician, while the term musica refers to the instrumental music a musicanti plays. Likewise, the term peen refers to a vocalist, while the songs peens sing is called pisen. The separation of terms for instrumental and vocal musicians comes from the fact that men were typically the instrumentalists, while women were typically the vocalists. Women sang primarily because they did a lot of work with their hands, whether it be housework or working in the fields. As Timothy Rice, a professor of ethnomusicology at UCLA, states in his textbook Music in Bulgaria, singing became an important means for women to pass the time as they do household chores and an important way to relieve the emotional stress of daily life. Women typically sang together when they worked in the fields. Because of this, not all of them sing the same part. Rather, they have a lead part and accompanimental parts. Here's the general breakdown of their structure. Izvikva is the main melody of the song, and in Bulgarian it means to cry out. Slaga is one part of the accompaniment. In Bulgarian it means to follow. Buchi is the other part of the accompaniment. This means to bellow. Those who were buchi could bellow in two ways. They could bellow crookedly, which meant they were moving between tonic, which is the key of a song or piece, or they could bellow straight, which meant they would act as a drone and stay within the tonic of the piece or song. The audio example I am going to play for you involves all three of these parts. Following along with the transcribed music as shown on the left, the izvikva is shown on the top because it is the melody. The slaga is shown on the middle line because it is the accompaniment that follows the melody, also known as countermelody. The buchi is the drone-like accompaniment. In this particular example of three women from shop singing, the buchi is bellowing straight. While the song you just heard may sound dissonant or clashing to us as Westerners, this kind of color of sound resembles the ringing of bells to the people of Bulgaria. Timothy Rice reminds us that the way people understand and appreciate music, what they find beautiful or ugly, mellifluous or cacophonous, is a product of culture, not something universal. On to the men. The men were typically the instrumentalists because the job was hereditary. So while the women worked, the men would work on their instruments, either by gathering the parts, assembling them, or of course practicing them. Most men were not actually taught by their predecessors. They more just watched and learned on their own. There are a variety of traditional Bulgarian folk instruments that men played. These include the gaida, which is the national instrument of Bulgaria. It is made of cured goat skin turned inside out and is single-reeded. It includes two pipes, a drone pipe and a melody pipe, and is used to mostly accompany songs. The kaval, which is an end-blown flute. This instrument is a shepherd's instrument and was actually brought along by the Ottoman Turks. The godolka, a pear-shaped bowled lute. The godolka is played upright and with a bow, while the strings the bow plays on are made of steel to allow for a unique reverb. The tupan, a large two-headed bass drum. This instrument was brought from India and is played with a mallet and a stick. The zurna, a double-reeded instrument somewhat similar to an oboe. The recording I am about to play not only includes the zurna, but also the tupan, the large two-headed bass drum. And the tambura, a four-stringed instrument similar to the mandolin. One of its four strings acts as a drone, while the other three provide melodic ornamentation. Now that we have a good amount of background of how both men and women participate in music in Bulgaria, it's time to learn how their music comes into fruition. Seasons, agricultural cycles, and religious calendar holidays are the main reasons for the context of the songs that were created. One specific ritual is called Kulida, which is performed before Christmas. For some quick context, Bulgaria adopted Orthodox Christianity in 864. Kulida is very similar to what we think of as Christmas caroling. The specific songs sung during Kulida are called Kulidarski Pesni, or Kulida songs. The Kulida songs are typically sung by young, single men dressed in traditional costumes and are often accompanied by other men playing the gaida and godolka. A month before Christmas, they go around and sing at houses and in town squares, usually singing songs that contain good wishes for the following year. It is not uncommon for these Kulida singers to also try to woo a girl or two with their singing. These traditional songs are sung and performed still, even today, for a couple of reasons. For starters, industrialization reached Bulgaria later than it did other countries. Because of this, Bulgaria managed to preserve their songs for quite some time. When industrialization did come to Bulgaria, due to the Austrian Tsars coming to liberate Bulgaria from Russia from 1878 to 1944, however, a lot of changes happened not only in their music, but in their social system. For starters, intellectual and merchant classes were being developed. On top of that, European classical music, composers, and instruments also start making their way through Bulgaria. This leads to the beginning of actual ensembles being created. The ensembles created started performing mainly at ceremonies and were mostly improved. However, this raises the status of musicians in Bulgaria nonetheless. Later on, when communism arrives in Bulgaria, the communists see Bulgaria's use of traditional music as a symbol of a nationalist identity. This furthers the creation of ensembles, making them more professional, while also encouraging the people of Bulgaria to keep on singing and performing their traditional songs. While songs were definitely still preserved, new songs were being made that fit more closely with what we deem as sounding good, or consonant. They started adding more complex parts to their songs, other than counter melody and a drum. Finally, most of Bulgaria's songs were preserved well simply because it was tradition. It was always done, so they always did it. During the 70s and 80s, Bulgaria experienced a rise in the popularity of wedding music. Wedding music was typically performed by Roma and Turkish musicians who were working without state support. These Roma and Turkish musicians were using new instruments, including the likes of the clarinet, guitar, and trumpet. This wedding music included elements of the traditional folk music, but was majorly different because of its faster, louder, and more aggressive sound. This music was used and seen as almost an attack on the state in some ways. After 1989, when communism waned and when democracy came into play, musicians lost the support from the state due to communism being abolished in Bulgaria. The loss of support from the state meant many ensembles had to dissolve because they made no money otherwise. However, now that people could perform more than just traditional folk songs, Bulgaria started to experience an infusion of foreign music from neighboring Balkan states. The lack of state support also brought on an interest in amateur folk music, music that was performed before the creation of ensembles and the standardization of instruments. This renewed interest also allowed women to begin playing instruments if they so desired, because music was now free from the government's control. In a sense, it seems that music in Bulgaria has almost come full circle.